Thank you so much. Just a quick few remarks here before Mr. George Bozeka of the Professional Football Researchers Association kicks us off. Thank you all for making this happen. It is an amazing representation of some of the best games out there, some of the oldest games out there, some of the best thinkers in this wonderful hobby, and more people, because of the content that will come out of this, are going to learn about these games and continue this hobby, which is something that we're always concerned about. This is our third time at the Hall of Fame. We've taken a cue, of course, from Mr. Keith Avalone and Play Games and opened this to all platforms, and the turnout is amazing. We've got Al Wilson's Fast Drive Football, Arthur Franz has a whole posse for Breakaway here, and we've got St. Patrick's Matchup, and we saw a couple of gentlemen from Strat here, Mike Kane, who's a very well-known name in the Strat community, to be clear about that, and Play Games. Keith Avalone is doing the World Football League 50th anniversary. So timely, perfect. This hobby covers anything you can imagine, and you know what the PFRA does is fuels our passion. We talked about going down that statistical rabbit hole, so before I kick it off to George here, I just want to say thank you all again. You know, we've come a long way since APBA Football. The granddaddy was issued in 1958, an apropos time with the spiking interest in the National Football League based on that tremendous 1957 NFL West Lions comeback over the Niners, and then a few months before the so-called greatest game ever played comes APBA Football, the first real statistics-based game. Stratomatic follows, and now you see all the variations here. Breakaway focuses on great teams that have these unique qualities. The players have unique qualities. Keith focuses on a really narrative-driven but deeply statistically based approach. I don't know who outthinks St. Patrick in terms of statistical tweaking, but everyone's got an approach here, and Al Wilson's Fast Drive lets people realize the unique qualities of teams in a quick play game that's been one of the most popular launches in the hobby, certainly recent memory probably of all time, honestly. So there's a gentleman here, if you really want to know why we're here, there's this gentleman you might have met last night at dinner, Pete Simonelli. If you really want to know the truth why we're here, Pete Simonelli is an APBA Hall of Famer. He was the tournament director for the first APBA National Convention in Philly in 1973. Fast forward to 2011, and I was starting to get back into APBA after one of those many hiatuses, and I saw that he was selling some sets online. I didn't know what it was. Turns out he was selling the Robert Henry collection. Robert Henry was the Q&A editor at APBA Journal. I went to pick up my winnings at Pete's house, about 20 minutes from me in New Jersey, and lo and behold, instead of just saying, here, take your stuff, thank you, he spent hours with me. He showed me the Of Dyson Men APBA documentary video by Scott Lahotsky. He sat down and showed me the Ed Zach Baseball Handbook. He showed me the National Pastime Game, the original, an original copy that is the foundation for APBA Baseball, really. He's a custodian for the Van Beek family, and that copy will go back to the family. So, you know, the time that he spent, that ambassadorship, is really important, and that's why we're here. And this ripple effect is, you know, everyone here does so much as an ambassador for this hobby, so thank you. And just a couple of housekeeping notes. We're here till 7 p.m. Tour the museum all day. Leave your gear here, and you can leave your gear here overnight. They're going to lock the doors, so everything's safe and cool, and they'll bring lunch in. You'll see that. If you have any gluten-free requirements, ask them, and they'll bring that out for you. And I think that's everything, and you all got in here. They're having a marathon, so that was a little tricky to navigate, but we all got here, so thank you, and without further ado, George Bozeka, President of the Professional Football Researchers Association.
Thanks, Geoff. Was there anybody here last year when I spoke? One person, okay. Two people, okay. Three, okay. So how many of you are from Northeast Ohio? So a handful. Well, those of you that are, welcome everybody else. I grew up in Canton, I live in Akron now. I actually live about less than a mile from the Hall of Fame, so it was in walking distance for me. And that's where I initially got my love for pro football. Every year, you know, going to the Hall of Fame festival You can just walk down my street to get to the parade, see all the enshrinees, the past enshrinees riding the parade, and then walk over to the Hall of Fame. And back then, even though they have the extravaganza now that's in the new stadium, you know, back then, and those of you that are from the area may remember this, back then they did the enshrinement right on the steps of the Hall of Fame. It was free. Everybody could just walk up. They would get, I don't know, maybe 500 to 750 people between the front door of the Hall of Fame and 77. And most people would stand, a couple people would sit. You didn't see the huge fan bases and all that back then. It was much more, you know, intimate type of ceremony. A local radio personality was the host. His name was Jim Muzzy. He worked at a local radio station for years. He was the host. The entertainment was a barbershop quartet. Just to show you the difference. They didn't have the big video screen. They had a presenter who gave the speech, and then the enshrinee gave his speech. And it was sort of the I guess, overall metaphor, but then they were going to enter the Hall of Fame. And usually all of the dignitaries would sit in the front of the hall. You'd see George Howitz up there. You'd see Lamar Hunt up there. It was just a different time. And then Pete Rozelle would always close the ceremony. He'd speak for a couple minutes, and usually the local mayor, whoever it was at the time, would also speak. So it's a lot different than, you know, what you see now on TV. And in a lot of ways, I guess I'm old school. It was I think, more meaningful. And that's where I got my love for pro football. When I found out about the Pro Football Researchers Association, I quickly joined. It was founded in 1979 right here at the Hall of Fame. Our founding father was Bob Carroll. Also Joe Horrigan, who for a number of years was the chief historian here at the Hall, was also one of the founding fathers. And our mission then is the same as it is now, to foster a study of pro football, to establish an accurate history of pro football, and then to disseminate that. We grew from a small group of, you know, less than 25 to now we have over 600 members worldwide. We have members here in the United States and Canada, and we have members in Europe. So we are basically a worldwide organization. One of our recent initiatives is our 50th anniversary will be in 4 years. I should say 5 years, it's 2024 to 2029. We'd like to get to 1,000 members by 2029, our 50th anniversary. So that's something that we're trying to do right now. Membership, are any of you members? Okay, you do have a few, good. Membership is a bargain. It's $35 a year if you live in the United States. It's $40 a year if you live in Canada, and $50 if you live overseas. And it's a bargain. Your membership gets you 6 issues of our magazine, The Coffin Corner. And I'm gonna, so everybody can get a copy, I'm gonna just start passing these around so everybody can take a copy home with them. This is just a variety of back issues, but to give you an idea, that comes out 6 times a year. And basically, it's articles that are written by our members about various topics in pro football history, and that is part of your membership. Also part of your membership is access to our members only page, which is on our website. And that's basically a treasure trove of information that we have compiled over the years. You'll find line scores on there, you'll find game books. We have a WFL section. I know it's the 50th anniversary. We have a pre-NFL section. So it's just a variety of information that is only available to members. When you get your membership, I assign everybody a username and a password so that people can get into the members only section. Another thing that members are eligible to do is, in 2002, we started a Hall of Very Good. And the whole idea of the Hall of Very Good was to give recognition to players that are not in the Hall of Fame. So every year, we nominate people to be players or administrators to go into the Hall of Very Good. Then the Hall of Very Good committee narrows that down to basically 20 finalists, much like what they do with the Hall of Fame, and then everybody votes on the finalists. And then we normally induct into our Hall of Very Good about 7 to 10 new players or administrators every year. And lo and behold, a number of times after somebody's been inducted into the Hall of Very Good, the Hall of Fame wises up and they induct the same person. So we're always proud of that fact that we got them first, and now they're in the Hall of Fame. So, and we usually give them, we have a page on our website with each class, history of every player, and then also if they eventually get into the Hall of Fame, we put an asterisk by their name. So we've had a number of players that have done that. Every year we also give out awards of recognition. We give out a Ralph Hay Award, which is for lifetime achievement in pro football history. We give a Nelson Ross Award, which is basically for recent achievement. It sort of has morphed into a book award. It's normally for the book of that year that we thought was the most significant new research book of that year. But we're opening that up and starting to consider podcasts and other things, as basically the history world changes. We also give a Bob Carroll Award, which is for the best article in the Coffin Corner of that year. And then we also just recently started a Jack Clary Award, which is basically a service award for people that have done things for the organization. One of the first recipients put together an index of the Coffin Corner, which is on the website, which is really helpful because the Coffin Corner has been around pretty much since the time we started the organization. So that way you can go back and find an article. Now, there are some Coffin Corners that are also digitally on the website, either the articles or the whole issue. And through 2009, anybody can go onto the website and read an article that was in the Coffin Corner from 2009 on, though you have to be a member because it's in the members only. And every member obviously gets a hard copy that is mailed to them, but then also we now have the digital copy too, so which is really helpful for people. We also recently, I should say not recently anymore because it was 2016, we started a Great Teams book series through McFarland Publishing. And we have thus far published 3 books. Our first book was on the 1966 Packers. Our second book was on the 1958 Colts. And then our third book was on the 1951 Rams. They were all 3 obviously NFL championship teams. We just presented a couple months back our 4th book on the 1964 Bills to the publisher, and that will come out sometime in 2025. And we just started work on the 5th book, which will be the 1976 Raiders. I made the initial suggestion. I was at local Barnes & Noble, and I found a book on the 1947 Brooklyn Dodgers, which is the Jackie Robinson Dodgers. And it was written by Sabre, which is sort of our baseball counterpart. I see some people shaking their heads, so some people are familiar with Sabre. And they have a whole series that they've done. So we said, well, we should do the same thing with pro football. And at the time I contacted the people with Sabre that were responsible for the series. They told me how they put the series together, how they administered each book, and we sort of, took notes and basically started that in 2016. We released that book in time for our convention that year, which was in Green Bay. Which brings me to the next topic is our conventions. We have PFRA conventions every other year. We had to skip obviously because of the COVID year. But in the last 15 years, we normally try to go to either an NFL city or a city related to pro football. So we've been to Canton twice, we've been to Cleveland, we've been to New York, we've been to Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and our next convention next year, 2025, will be in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And it's going to be July 10th through the 13th. And you can find, we will be posting all of the information about that on the website and in the next issue of the Coffin Corner, which is going to come out probably in September. But basically, it's a 4-day convention. We do add-on activities day 1 and day 4, which is Thursday and Sunday. We normally either tour local, the NFL stadium in the city, or any museums and that type of thing. The last thing that was which is in Pittsburgh, we toured the Western Pennsylvania Museum, which basically has its own sports history wing, which is just amazing. It covers the whole history of sports in the Pittsburgh area, and as I said, it's amazing. And we also went to Latrobe, where one of the first pro football teams was, and they have a little historical society there. and they give a presentation about that. Were we the first or weren't we? Well, they give a presentation about that, and that was a lot of fun. And then we have the 2 days of the convention, Friday night, Saturday all day. We normally invite some former NFL players. We've had Thurman Thomas speak, we've had Dave Robinson speak. In Pittsburgh, we had John Cole, who was an offensive lineman with the Steelers during their 70 Super Bowl years. He was amazing, gave a really good talk. He basically is a athletic sort of trainer now and has his own business in the Pittsburgh area. So he came in and spoke. When we were in Buffalo, we had a number of members of the 64 Bills that came in. So, you know, we've been sort of fortunate. When we were in Cleveland, I see a Browns fan way in the back there. We had Dick Shafrath, and we also had Jim Houston there, who were both members of the 64 Browns. We were also supposed to have Bob Gain, but he took ill and wasn't able to attend. And, you know, it's just fun. They come in and give presentations, and that's just part of the convention. We usually do that first thing Saturday afternoon after our lunch, and we usually have a players panel. But then we also have local authors come in, and we try to gear each convention to that area. For Pittsburgh, we concentrate on Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and I've already started lining up speakers for Minneapolis, and we're basically, there's a Bronco Nagurski Museum in International Falls, and their curator is going to come down and speak, and hopefully bring down some things from the museum. And actually, the curator is a great-granddaughter of Bronco Nagurski, so, which is unique. So we do that, and we try to keep these conventions affordable. I know I've heard Sabre charges like $300, we charge $75. If you're a member, $100 if you're a non-member, and that gets you into the convention. You get 2 meals, and you get to hear all the speakers. So we try to keep it affordable. We always have a deal at our host hotel, and we have that again. We were in Pittsburgh, we were at the Drury. We were so impressed with that hotel that we're now at the Drury in St. Paul. So we try to do that for our members also. We started a podcast recently. It's been about a year and a half now. And we try to have authors on, we try to have former players on, former administrators. To date, we've had Ernie Accorsi on. Ernie Accorsi was general manager with both the Browns and the Colts, and also the Giants. We had on Wayne Fonts, former Detroit Lions coach, who's actually, I don't know how many of you know, Wayne Fonts is from Canton. He grew up here. He played at the local high school here, Canton McKinley, which some of you may have heard of the famous McKinley Massam or Canton Massam high school football series. So he played in that series, and all I'll say is Wayne Fonts is a unique individual. We set up the interview with him. We called him, we got him on for the podcast. He was in the middle of a poker game down in Florida because he lives in Florida now. And so we talked to him for about 40 minutes. He said, I got to get back to my poker game. He said, I have a full house. He said, I got to get back to my poker game. So he was a character, but he has some great stories. We've also had John Kendall on, who is the chief archivist here. Actually, John's office is right across the hall here in the Ralph Wilson Center. We've also had Chris Willis on, who was a former board member, and he's the chief archivist at NFL Films, and he was a former officer of the PFRA, and he recently had a book come out about the greatest all-time two-way players from 1920 to 1945, and it's a great book. I recommend it, and Chris has written a number of good books, but that's his most recent one. We also have a forum where anybody can join the forum and talk about different pro football history topics. Obviously, I mentioned our website. We recently started an initiative to have chapters all over the country. We always have had a real active Buffalo chapter, but since that initiative about a year ago, we've had chapters started in DC, Baltimore area. There's one planned in Philadelphia, New Jersey area. We also have one in the Great Plains, which is basically centered in Minnesota, but also involves Minnesota, Wisconsin, and some of the Canadian provinces where we have members. And then we also have one in Michigan. So we're looking to create chapters, all over the country. Again, this is something we sort of borrowed from Sabre, because Sabre had chapters all over the country. So it's a way that we look to basically develop our membership, across the country, and let people know, who we are and what we're all about. Because, obviously, pro football is loved in a lot of, different ways, as you guys know through, the gaming. I have to say, I'm impressed. I I grew up playing Stratomatic football, and I had no idea until I walked in this morning to see how many different games and forums there are for this. I told Geoff, I said, I thought it was all like Stratomatic and APBA. I had no idea. So I'm impressed by, you know, just the whole gaming community. And I know this is probably about 3 times the number of people that I saw here last year, so I'm also impressed by, you know, just the turnout. And I appreciate you giving me the time to talk about the Pro Football Research Association. I think it does go hand in hand with what you guys are all about. And I think you'll enjoy a membership. All you have to do is Google Pro Football Research Association, and we'll pop up. It's probably your first choice. And just go on there, and you'll see right along the page there, it says join. If you tap on that, all you have to do is go ahead and pay the $35. And I tell you, it'll be the best $35 you spend this year. Because I think you'll really, really enjoy your membership. And I hope you enjoy your weekend here in Canton. It's a great city. Obviously, it's morphed into now this Hall of Fame village, which some of the locals seem to like, some of the locals maybe not so much. But you know, that's progress, and I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing. So, but like I said, I'm sort of old school, so I'll leave it at that. But at any rate, though, it's a fun area, a lot of restaurants and things like that. So, you know, if you have a chance, make sure you explore the area. There's some really neat things downtown. They have the Centennial Plaza there, which basically has these pylons where they have the name of every player that ever played in the NFL is on those pylons. They also have what's called the 11, which is basically pieces of art, sculpture that are around the whole downtown area that are 11 key moments in pro football history. They have the Jets Super Bowl victory. They have God, I'm trying to remember the first draft, the merger, the birth of the NFL, which is right across the street from City Hall. Actually, there's a plaque there. There's also Bender's Restaurant, which is not part of it, but Bender's Restaurant is where some of the first meetings of the NFL took place. But the spot where the birth is and where they have the sculpture is where Ralph Hayes' Huntmobile was supposedly in that vicinity, or at least close to that vicinity, and that's where obviously they had the first meeting. So yeah, so if you have a chance to go downtown, if you go on the City of Canton, like I think Visit Canton or whatever it's called, they actually have like a map there. And you can actually walk, and when we were in Canton for the convention, we actually walked the whole thing in the afternoon. We had lunch at Bender's and we did that. But you can also drive around and see them all. And you know, it's fun. They have Red Grange also is another one, but it's fun to see them all. I think the most unusual one, and everybody agreed, was the AFL. It's a strange sculpture. We have a chance to go down and see it. Most of the others, you know, sort of fit what you expect, but that one's sort of unusual. So I'm not sure what the artist was thinking, but it's an unusual one. So at any rate, but it's fun. And they also just recently started putting up some other information things throughout the downtown area. I know they have one from Marion Molly, who's one of our favorite sons, and they have some other things that deal with that. So what Canton is trying to do is obviously, you know, really celebrate this over the last couple of years, because they realize it's a big, you know, tour for tourists and everything else. So they're basically building on that with the village and some of the things they're doing downtown. So, and there are some really good restaurants downtown too. So at any rate, I thank you all for letting me talk this morning, and hope to see some of you as members of the organization, maybe see you in Minneapolis. So thanks.